Welcome to Saturday versus Sunday. I'm Jeff Dover. With me is John Barbin. Let's talk football.
Right, we're going to review the NFL Week 15, the results of some of the games, give our best and our worst, and some of our bets. This was a bad week for us. We didn't. There's no way around that, Dover. This was a really bad week.
We went 1 for 2 in the Army Navy game. You were right about the over. It's one of the first times that's hit in like the last 15 years. We were wrong on Army. There was just a game script for that one, but anyway. And then the NFL ones were So we went 3 and 6 overall. So not great.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that Dover chose the under in the Bills-Lions game,
which is the highest scoring game of all time.
We missed it by about 50 points. Yeah.
That was I was like, because San Fran had an outburst last week, and I'm like, they're not doing that again. And I thought the same thing for this game, but I just had the games flipped. So it was like the Rams San Fran 12-6 game was which is more
Dover
of what
took the over there.
Yeah, and
so
then
we took the
just the right thinking, wrong games.
Yeah, just making sure everyone understands those were Dover's picks. just going to reiterate right here, those were Dover's picks.
At least I'm not wearing a North Carolina t-shirt today.
Oh yeah, I got stirred some people up with that one too. All right, so let's get to this. Shall I start?
Please.
Okay, so Week 15, the number 3 best thing I saw was the Bills-Lions game.
Yeah.
Just in a season with really crappy offenses, it's just satisfying to see some offenses move the ball. Same thing with the Bills-Rams game. The Tampa Bay's been scoring a lot lately too, and like Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, the Bengals. At least there's a couple teams around the league that can actually score. In a league where most of the games you're looking at the point total somewhere around 40-ish and teams winning with 20 points. It's just fun. I get for people who are defensive purists, these are nightmarish games to watch defenses have the ball just run up and down the field on them. But at least it's a little bit of something different to see. So, and I'm realizing each week where there's a high scoring game, it's such an anomaly. It's kind of satisfying to see it, given like you got games like 12-6 with the Niners and Rams, or whatever the Falcons think they're doing on offense against the Raiders. Like you've got some such low scoring games elsewhere that it's kind of refreshing to see offenses just go up and down the field. Josh Allen's, I think, got the MVP now after that.
Yeah. Yeah, so this was the number one best thing I had for me in the week, mostly because it was also done in 2 different ways, but we'll get into that. But just to your point about the points and the total, like I appreciate good defense too, but most of the time it looks like the defense overwhelms the offense of most NFL games. And like you said, here's the total for the upcoming weeks. Okay. 42.5, 39.5, 44.5, 41.5, right? Those are the game totals.
Yep.
And Buffalo alone went over all that. Right.
Yep.
So it was really amazing. I was going to say also just how it was done. Like Buffalo rushed for almost 200 yards, and obviously Josh Allen passed for a lot. The Detroit barely rushed for anything. It was 48 yards, and Goff had 494 yards passing, which is unbelievable. And I keep thinking about how he was a castaway, like a complete, like almost, it's like the Sam Darnold thing again. Like he was in LA and it was a bust, but he wasn't though.
They went to the Super Bowl with him.
I know that, but like everyone blamed him when things didn't work out, and they had to trade him and so many other picks to equal one Matthew Stafford. And so I really thought felt like it was a castaway at that point. And so for him to have such a resurgence in Detroit and for him to pass for almost 500 yards, like, you know how many other QBs pass for like 100 and something?
Yeah.
And 200,
Takes them 3 games to get to that.
Yeah. So like it was just hats off to them, for that. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is unbelievable. And
that trade between the Rams and the Lions is the best win-win trade ever, because the Rams got their Super Bowl, and it looks like the Lions are on their way to a Super Bowl, or at least are in the conversation as a Super Bowl favorite. Based on that, you could argue just based on that trade.
Yeah, no, and I think that the Rams probably could have used a couple of other picks, like some of those picks later down the road. But you're right, it was but
their goal was to win the Super Bowl.
That was the short-term goal. They hit it, and Detroit has really done a great job with the picks, from it afterwards. So really good.
Yeah, it handed them some picks that they actually did something with.
Yeah, and you're right about Josh Allen and the MVP part, like because it's just a little bit of running for some, as people are really gravitating to that now.
Well, now he's setting records like 3 passing TDs, 3 rushing TDs, or the game in Buffalo where he had a pass run in, whatever it was. He had when he threw it to the guy that lateraled it back to him, so he ended up with a pass, a run, and a catch. He's getting to the point where it's sort of obvious now. I can't imagine what he has to do to not win the MVP, even though Lamar Jackson's going off again as usual.
And Saquon Barkley looks really good. He got some love for that a few weeks ago too. But
this year, all 3 look good. No, go ahead.
Yep. No, and it's just sort of more back about the offense thing, because that's something I thought after having a good scoring week that there's most NFL teams have a more regression to the mean, like San Fran did.
Yeah.
Like looked like things were clicking finally last week, and then they couldn't do anything against the Rams. And so that really shows you like how good these teams are, because they scored a lot the week before. I wanted to take the under, and like, are you sure? And I'm like, there's no way that happens again, but
and it did. Oh yes, boy, did it ever. The other thing there is, like you said, the Lions had no running yards, but they got so far behind, all of it was catch up.
Yeah.
Like all of those points were catch up, and then Goff just went off. It was interesting because
it's just rare to see like just such a high scoring game.
Yeah.
And one is so lopsided, like in terms of how they did it. So, but
yeah, for that kind of score, you would expect 150, 200 yards rushing on both sides to get the score to there.
Yeah.
But again, they had to do it in the second half, all in catch up mode. The other thing is the score wasn't actually that close. Like within the last 2 minutes, they were still down, whatever it was, by 10
they
or
got
13.
21 points in the fourth quarter. So
you're right. But at the very, very end, it's not like this game was ever in question. They were just sort of, they made it look more respectable on paper. They really had no chance of closing the gap there.
Detroit had 30 first downs. Like there's again, some teams don't get 10. So
some teams, it takes 3 weeks to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, anyways, again, that's why this was refreshing to see. It's just 2 teams going bananas up and down the field. I mean, this looked almost exactly like the Rams game, but in this case, the Lions had to catch up, whereas in the Rams game, the Bills had to catch up.
Yeah. No,
all right. Well, what do you got for your number 3?
All right. So my third best thing was Minnesota playing well, and it was specifically in the second half as their goal line stand, because Chicago sort of could have put it within a score at the end, and it made me think about you, because you've been after teams for like being like first and goal in the one and like coming away with nothing, but this really looked like Minnesota just played well. Like it wasn't so much Chicago messing it up. Like it was it was defended well. Like Chicago had a couple of good plays, but they still came away, and that's what was, that could have brought Chicago back in it, but Minnesota kept his foot down. They're a good team, and that's what good teams are supposed to do. And so that was I was really impressed with that, because that would have swung the game a lot. But after that, they just boa constricted the rest of the way, and ended up a little
biased here because you made the Minnesota pick and you needed that to round out the week.
Barman, I needed that pick. I'm not gonna lie to you. There was a second where I had some self-doubt, but then I was like, watching Minnesota win, I'm like, yeah, this is more like it, so that was I'm back on it. I feel good about the picks this week. You'll have to tune in the next show for that one. But I definitely that felt good to get at least that one.
The announcers were saying this. I think Darnold, this is enough sample size to show Darnold can be a starter.
Yeah. And they had a really good piece. I didn't know if you saw that in the game, where that guy was talking about how it was Troy Aikman had saw him at like the camp, like and how he's like, he looked really like just as good as like Baker Mayfield and the other ones that they had in that, right? So yeah, it's great to see him putting it together, and it's a good team. I love watching Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson. Like they're
that team, it pretty much looks complete. I mean, the big question mark was Darnold, but I mean, how many more games do they have to win? I don't think you can really question it anymore. It looks like this team can challenge for the NFC title for sure. And,
like they're 12-2. Like that's
I know.
Really
I'm just saying it's all along the way. It's like, but it's Darnold. But he's a career back. No. He actually, they keep Kevin O'Connell, the coach of the Vikings. They keep repeating a quote he has that it's more often that teams fail a rookie quarterback and not the rookie quarterback failing the team.
Yeah, that's a good line.
And we've got a buddy who played quarterback at college, and he kind of thought the same thing when he sees specifically players going to the Bears, and the Bears just can't sort it out no matter how good the draft picks are. So it could be that Purdy landed in the right spot. Maybe other draft picks who landed on the Niners at that time when the Niners had like kind of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Many quarterbacks might have had a much better go of it. And it could also be that no matter who ended up on the Bears, this is how it was going to look.
Well, and Shanahan has been known for some time for his offensive prowess and play calling or something like that. And so however he does it with the quarterback, like what makes them feel comfortable, like what do you want to run, like what, what's the best position to put him in, and that's the guy at Minnesota makes me think like that too. Like there was a stretch where Jefferson like didn't get it for a while, and then you could see it wasn't like a wide receiver screen, but it was sort of like a quick out kind of thing, and it really felt like, okay, we just need to get him the ball, like it's one, and it's no, it's really good. They're 12-2 and arguably the best division in the NFL, in the NFC North, with Detroit 12-2, Minnesota 12-2, and Green Bay 10-4. So,
and right at this moment, after this weekend, you could make the argument the arrow's pointing up on the Vikings and down on Detroit, partly just because of this particular loss, but also just the ridiculous amount of injuries Detroit is suffering.
More.
We'll get to that later.
I like Gibbs, but man, Montgomery, having both of them really made a difference.
Sonic and Knuckles, but now we're down to just Sonic. But yeah, I think Kevin O'Connell's off the Shanahan coaching tree. So I think, with Mike McDaniel, O'Connell, all of these guys seem to be pretty QB friendly. They're clever enough to know how to scheme it up, and that these QBs are building confidence. But Darnold, man, he threw a couple of awesome passes over the middle, in between three defenders. Like he's got the accuracy, and he obviously has a rocket for an arm, but it looks like he's just gaining confidence each week. And he just looks, I mean, put it this way, if you didn't know who it was, let's say you didn't see the name on the jersey and you just saw the stats and how these guys played, you if you took your bias out of it being Darnold, you'd say that's a top 5 quarterback for sure in the NFL. If you just watch him play and watch him throw.
Well, that's a really good point about the confidence thing, right? Because he was one of the ones that famously said, like, I'm seeing ghosts out there when he was playing for New York, and it was, and just couldn't complete anything. So, and it looks real different now. Like that level of confidence is super important. So,
and now we're realizing lots of people look bad in New York, which further supports O'Connell's opinion that it's the team's more likely failing the QB. Anyways, that game was super, super fun to watch. Yeah. I would be ecstatic if this was the Super Bowl. If we watched the Bills, Bills and Lions again.
Yeah, which we were just talking about the Minnesota game.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah,
okay, but anyway,
I'm still fixated on that. Well, you know what?
We were just talking about the Minnesota game that we called correctly
Actually, I wouldn't mind seeing the Vikings in that game too.
in the Minnesota Chicago game?
No, in the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Yeah, Vikings. I'll take anybody from the NFC North.
Yeah,
Packers, Vikings, Lions, any representative.
Yeah.
All right. So number 2
best thing.
Second best thing I saw was Tampa Bay's final 33 minutes. Well, no, because with 3 minutes, I had to give them 33, not the second half, because with 3 minutes left in the first half, they're losing 17-10.
Okay.
And then at that moment, they finished the first half with a field goal, and then which starts a 30-0 run. So they just blank them in the second half and just go off for 30 points. And to your point, a balanced attack where they ran for almost 200 yards.
Yeah.
Through for, I don't know, 300
many
something.
yards. 506 yards they had.
They're total. Just all over them. And
the Chargers had 206.
Yeah. And this was like, I couldn't believe as I was watching, like, okay, this Chargers look like they're going to grind them down the way you think Harbaugh would want to play. And by the end of the first half, it's like, okay, Tampa Bay's putting up a little bit of a fight here, but it looks like Chargers just have this one in hand. And then Tampa Bay just ran away with it. Mike Evans just went off. Baker Mayfield.
How much it's so important to have him back. Evans is really good.
How good would this team be if Godwin was still there too?
Oh, I know.
And then they have a good 1-2 punch at running back too.
Yep.
With Buck Irvin and White. That's kind of, that's their own version of Sonic and Knuckles. But this team just, when it's going, and they've got some studs on defense, maybe a couple of their best defensive players are getting a bit older, but man, when they put a game together, I can see them doing what they did last year for sure, at least winning a playoff game. It's just too bad Godwin's not there, because that's how they could be even more powerful on offense. And this is one of the few teams that can break 40 points.
Yeah. And it's a good point about the 33 minutes. I know you're not a big win probability chart guy, but it's exactly how you described from that like second half of the second quarter to then to the end of the game was just a straight line up, like because they controlled everything. So that was really dominant play by them, and and good on them. They're that division is wide open. And they're it looks like they're going to be the top part over there. Like they're 8-6 now over Atlanta and the Saints and Carolina. So yeah, good for them.
There's not much going on in that division. This should be theirs. This should be theirs. I just I can't believe they lost that game to Atlanta earlier this year.
No, I know.
That was terrible.
All right, second best thing I saw from the NFL this weekend was the good stretch with Jordan Love in there. Like it's he was like 12 for 12 or something like that, and it just looks like a really poised, mature quarterback. And that was a tough one on the road. And I think they're the better team, and they looked like it. But it really comes from him. Like he was managing the offense and running it really well and very poised, and no, just really good. Really, it's the best I've seen Jordan Love look, like most mature. So
in that game, again, the NFC North, I'll take any of those teams to go all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
In that game, Romeo Doubs had 2 of the best touchdowns.
Yeah.
So the second one was that amazing catch where he just plucked it off the ground, where it looked like it might have touched the ground, but it didn't. And then he got the shoulder down just in time before he went out the back of the end zone. But the touchdown before that, he caught it something like on the 5-yard line. And then just put his shoulder into the defender and just drove him straight back into the end zone. I just thought it was awesome that he had 2 sort of different styles of touchdown. One of them, I mean, obviously he has to have the hands to catch both passes, but in the first one, it was catch and then just power. Like he just pushed the defender. He just wasn't going to be denied. So he looked like a running back once he had the ball in the first touchdown. And then the second one, he just ran a crazy route and just superior hands and body control. So it was just, I have it as one of my best flowers too, but that his particular performance, not like it was a lot of yards or anything, but those were 2 obviously super important plays. And it was kind of him making both happen.
Yeah, no, he was really good. And it was Jacobs really good in that game, and Green Bay's defense was good. Like it was a full team thing. Like you said, any of those NFC teams could be in
they're starting to look like a complete offense now.
Yeah.
Like Jacobs, I was wondering about that trade because Jones is like, what was wrong with Jones? And he looks good.
He looks great.
Good
no, but
too.
Jacobs fits in great.
But yeah, obviously LaFleur had an idea of we're actually not going to keep a running back who's really good because something about how I want to do this, that other running back, Jacobs, fits a little bit better. But they just went from good to good. But this maybe is just a slightly better fit. Either way, this looks like a balanced, complete team here. If Love can just keep the craziness under control and not throw any like critical interceptions, I can see them going on a deep run too, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, the number one best thing I saw, this is a category, I had to put a few people in here, is big guys making big plays. So this was awesome. Some of these, I don't know if you see. Okay, so first one, Tim Settle Jr. on the Texans, a defensive lineman, recovered a fumble. So he's 6'3", 313, and I don't know if you saw this, but he was jumping over guys, and it was a very athletic play to grab that ball.
I think that was also the one where there was like a smaller guy next to him, like, "Hey, give me the ball," and he was like, not going to have it. Like he just took it. Was it that one?
There was 2. Actually, there was 2 in that game, but not this one. This one, it was just a really athletic move. He was sort of jumping over somebody.
There was one of the big guy touchdowns where like it had a bit of a convoy, and there was definitely. So I can't remember which one it was, but there's definitely someone's like, "Hey, give me the ball," and then they're like, "Nope, I got this."
Well, we got more. Yeah. So then 6'3", 304 pounds, DJ Jones, the defensive tackle for the Broncos, he had like the sliding into second fumble recovery, and he was moving like he comes flying into the picture. So it was a wide receiver out in the flats that the ball gets popped loose, and he just comes flying in as if he was like a safety or a corner. And I thought, whoa, geez, that was pretty athletic. And we've discussed these guys are freak athletes at that size. They can really move. And then 6'10", 320-pound Dan Skipper, tackle eligible, touchdown on the Lions. And as he was crossing the goal line, he put his shoulder right into that DB, which
he totally did.
I don't know if he had to. That DB
totally didn't have to.
Good for the DB for at least putting in a token effort. There's obviously no way he was tackling him, but man, that was awesome.
No, that guy doesn't look like he gets to have the ball and hit people very often, and he was looking for someone to hit. So that's exactly what he did there. Yeah.
And then the best one, 6'4", 360 pounds, T'Vondre Sweat, 30-yard fumble return with the Titans, but the stiff arm.
Mm-hmm.
So he picks up the ball, he jumps over somebody. First of all, the first big move was he high steps or jumps over somebody, and then as he's turning the corner, he stiff arms one of the linemen. It just flattens him, and he goes for a 30-yard run up the sideline. So that was probably the single best thing I saw the whole week was Sweat's run back in the stiff arm. That was hilarious. But again, it's just freaky, like how big these guys are and how athletic they actually are.
I remember that when early on in my time at Florida, when there was a defensive lineman who was like 300 pounds, he was 6'5", 300 pounds, and he came in and he dunked a basketball, and it just looked like he just made it look so normal, you know. Yeah. And I'm like, that's really hard to do. Like it's
at any
size, a lot of mass going up there, you know.
Accelerating 300 pounds vertically for a dunk. Yeah, no matter how tall he is, that's impressive.
Yeah, so that they're all like that. Like I remember seeing before in like warm-ups for one of the game, like there was a DB was just staying there and he just did a standing backflip. Like they're you know, like it was nothing. Like it's so
most people can't do that.
No.
They never will. All right, so we've already covered your number one.
Yeah, number one was the Buffalo Detroit, a really high scoring game. Totally missed on the under, but you know what? Good on them.
Yep, it was fun to watch. All right, moving on to the worst then.
Yep.
Okay, so this first one's a category. It is teams with winning records but lousy offenses.
Oh, yeah.
And they kind of were on display this week. I've got three in particular. The Steelers, 163 total yards, 56 yards rushing. And they got beat in time of possession, 40 minutes to 20.
Oh, that's a lot.
With that said, Pickens is out, and we said we were going to maybe take the Steelers if Pickens was playing, but not if he was out.
Right.
And we could be looking at potentially the best team in the NFC and the Eagles. I mean, they're just on it. Barkley's everything's working. That was
something we talked about before in the preview show, is that I didn't want, you know, Pittsburgh isn't a great team to have a get right game, but we were wrong on that because Philly absolutely had a get right game, looked completely different. That Philly was one of those that, you know, like they're a really crappy looking like 11-2 team. You know what I mean? Like we had that.
They're like the NFC version of the Chiefs,
right? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, they put it together, and this is how it's supposed to be looking. So yeah.
Well, but to your point, Steelers not the best team to have a get right game. I mean, Steelers got forced 2 turnovers right away in that game and did nothing with them. Would they end up with 3 points maybe?
Yeah.
So the Steelers defense can only hang in there for so long, and if their offense is this inept. And I can't believe Pickens makes that much of a difference, but maybe he does. Maybe he's he kind of is the only real deep threat they have. And just the way Wilson plays and throws the deep ball, I guess without him, it's clear they have nothing going on without Pickens. And against a real team like the Eagles, it's a joke how bad the Steelers are, like without him against a team that can actually stop them. Okay. So then the next team with a winning record but lousy offense, the Chargers. We've already talked about this. 206 total yards, 32 rushing yards. That's so pathetic. Bad. Same thing. Lost the time of possession battle, 37-23. I mean, this was a complete dominant final 2 quarters by the Buccaneers. But you're not winning any games with that type of performance. That's pretty bad. And I know, like, your national media pundits keep talking about Harbaugh and referring to them as a physical team and he wants to run the ball. Are you kidding me? They got crushed in this game. They got crushed on the ground. They couldn't run. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't do anything. So he has a great QB, but that doesn't matter if you're going to run for 32 yards. You're just getting nothing done like that.
No, and it goes back to your best ever, like with, 10 minutes into the second quarter, it was going exactly how Harbaugh would want it. Like it was sort of a grinded out game. They were ahead by 7 points. Like it was, but then once it got away, they had no chance of bringing it back.
No way to come back. Yeah. They're very limited. And then finally, the Seahawks, 208 total yards, 80 yards rushing. Same thing. They lost the time of possession battle by about 5 minutes. So not as bad as the other 2 on time of possession. But again, 200 yards. What are you doing? Yeah. 200 yards is going to get you nowhere.
While you're looking fluorescent green. So that didn't help either.
Well, So maybe that Charbonnet's breakout game a couple weeks ago was an anomaly. Maybe more about the other team's defense more so than the Seahawks actually having a good run running offense coming around. So they kind of regressed back to what they are. They can't run the ball. And when you're stuck just throwing the ball, I mean, this is even worse though, because normally they put up 300 and something yards in the air. Half the time that's not good enough anyways. But here they only got 200, so that was just bad. So that's 3 teams with winning records, lousy offenses, and specifically lousy rush offenses. So I think it's reasonable to make the case these are, if all 3 make the playoffs, they're all out in the first game, because this is not winning football.
No, it's not.
Not when it comes down to really good teams in the playoffs.
Yeah. All right. So the third worst thing that I saw the NFL this weekend, which is Cleveland, Kansas City, like it's a combination of Winston not playing well. We like him. We like watching Cleveland like that, and there was, that game was pretty much unwatchable. He didn't play well, so that didn't help. And then Mahomes being injured, like that team it's really, leans on him to do everything. And that's why Houston is favored this week, I believe, against Kansas City, because they're not sure about Mahomes and the high ankle sprain. So, but yeah, just a 21-7, ugly game. Winston didn't play well. Mahomes ended up being injured. I couldn't wait for that one to be over.
Yeah, and it was bad when the Browns turned it over immediately, and then the Chiefs scored immediately. I thought, within 10 minutes, I knew that game was over and the Browns had no chance. I didn't know bad Winston was going to show up this badly. Like, what was it, 4 picks, 6 total turnovers by the Browns? Whatever it was a ton.
Yeah.
And
he had 3 picks. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it was. And then the Chiefs had no turnovers.
He was picked 3 times, with sacked 5 times. So that didn't help
either. It's just terrible. It was just a complete dominant performance by the Chiefs, and combined with the worst of Jameis Winston. Which you're just, against a good defense, this is what you get. And it's not like the Chiefs ran away with the game. They didn't need to. The Browns weren't going anywhere in that game with that type of performance.
No, Patrick Mahomes was 19 for 38 for 159 yards. Like it's
I wonder if we're going to find out that he's been sort of hurt the whole season. Maybe
I wouldn't be surprised.
Because this is really so uncharacteristic.
It's really surprising.
Yeah. I mean, they're gutting them. They're gutting them out. They're winning these games. Thank God. Thanks to the defense, not thanks to anything the offense is doing.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if we find out he's had some seriously limiting injuries the whole year. They just haven't been telling us about.
That's also kind of on the list of like a 13-1 team, but has an offense that could not work at any time.
Yeah. My guess is, our residents Chiefs fans can tell us, but my guess is they think the clock's ticking and the gig is going to be up, like a team that can actually score, like the Bills again in the playoffs, or the Ravens again in the play. Somebody who can actually score is eventually just going to beat them to the point total in a game. And the Chiefs just can't keep up. Even as good as the Chiefs defense is, I mean, the script so far has been the Chiefs drag everyone down into a Chief game. And the point total just drops. And like what the Chiefs did to the Ravens last year in the playoffs, and what they did to the Niners in the Super Bowl. They just drag them down, and the 20-ish points the Chiefs score is enough. And it seems to keep happening until the Bills got them this year, which the score, they couldn't keep the Bills down. So we'll see. But I'm guessing Chiefs fans don't like the fact that it seems like there's a ceiling on what the Chiefs can score. And they're seeing some of these other teams actually put up points now.
And the total was 39.5, and it was nowhere, didn't even sniff it at that, so
that's crazy, right? And it's a confident under.
Yeah.
All right. So the number 2 worst thing I saw is teams giving the ball away. So keeping in theme with what we just talked about, the Browns, 6 turnovers, Winston with 3 picks, the Titans, 6 turnovers, Levis with 3 interceptions and a fumble. So I'm just kind of highlighting where some of them came from. The Colts, 5 turnovers, 3 fumbles and 2 interceptions. Let's see here. The Bengals, 4 turnovers, Burrow with 2 picks and a fumble. Dolphins, 4 turnovers, 3 of them were picks by Tua. The Panthers, 4 turnovers, Young, all 4 of them were on him, 2 picks and 2 fumbles lost. And then the only team I think on this list that actually won was the Broncos, Knicks with 3 picks, but still won the game. Week 15, and you're getting turnover totals like that. Now, Browns are a lousy team. The Titans are a lost team. But the Colts have a chance at their division still, and they turn the ball over 5 times.
Yeah.
The Bengals still have a chance to make the playoffs. I don't think statistically they're eliminated yet. And the Bengals, I guess, won, even though they have 4 turnovers. This is same with the Dolphins. What are these teams doing? And the Broncos, like, I get that the Panthers, the Titans, the Browns, that those are lost seasons with like questions at quarterback, that sort of thing. But here, these other teams that are fighting for a playoff spot being that sloppy with the ball, this is in week 15. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's really the worst ever part is Cincinnati and Denver having that many turnovers like Cleveland and Tennessee, right? That's really because like you're better than that. So
but you have a chance. You have a chance still to make the playoffs. Same with the Colts. You still have a chance for the playoffs. And then these other, I mean, that's 4 is unacceptable regardless, but Jesus, bad at this point of the season that it seems like it's getting worse, not better.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, what's your number 2?
Second worst thing, we're not going to see Carolina favored at home again anytime soon. You know, that was fun while it lasted, right? This sort of jumped out last week as Carolina minus 2.5 against Dallas. And if you said that at the beginning of the season, you would have been as crazy. But man, did they not play like it? They played like the multiple loss team that they are, and Dallas just handled them. And it was, and that really could have been, to win the first time you're favored in I don't know how long at home, like would have been a pretty momentous win for the team, and they just played terribly. So
and they were on a 3-game streak of playing really well against really good teams, and then
you finally get the chance where you're favored, and it was just
and then
terrible.
The juggernaut of Cooper Rush and Rico Dowdle was just too much for them.
Yeah, so bad.
That's awful. Yeah, so I'm off the Panthers. They're done for the season. I'm off a bunch of these teams.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the number one worst thing I saw was just injuries to teams that just can't have another injury. So David Montgomery's out. So the Lions, they're just so snake bitten. They just lost Montgomery, Alim McNeil, and Carlton Davis for the year, which is brutal. Yeah. Now that, I mean, Carlton Davis was a key defensive back. Good. Alim McNeil was the only thing left on the defensive line that was really productive after losing Hutchinson and a few other players. So now he's gone. And this, I made the argument many weeks ago that without Hutchinson, that might be the piece that they're missing. But you pointed out some of their interior line was still getting pressure, and it was because of this guy, McNeil. But now he's gone. So I think they're up to 16 players on injured reserve.
Yeah, no, it's
so not just questionable, but out, and then half. So Knuckles is gone. So we're down to Gibbs. Now it's not like Gibbs is bad. Gibbs is outstanding, but I'm sure that changes how they call the offense now that Montgomery's out. And then moving on, Nick Chubb, poor guy, broke his foot. I mean, this guy.
He's been a lot of injuries.
He has been so snake bitten. I mean, every part of his body, it just keeps falling apart on this guy. He's like the running back version of Joe Burrow. This guy just keeps getting hurt, which is super disappointing. Because he's good. He's really good. But boy, it just sucks for this guy. Max Crosby, I know it didn't happen this weekend, but he is out for the season. They finally disclosed that he had an injury. I can't remember what it was, but I think he needs surgery for it. So that's, and you know what, why keep going and make it worse? This team is lost. Like he's got to get off this team. I don't know that they can rebuild that team fast enough for his career to matter there. He's too good to be stuck on a team that's going to never even make the play. This can't go down as a guy who never makes the playoffs. He has to get on a team in his productive years, not like at the end of his career, but in his productive years, he needs to get on a real team. Like I want to see him go to the Patriots. Geno Smith, again, a team that's fighting for the playoffs, and they say it's not sure if he's in next week, but that would look pretty bad.
Yeah.
And he was in a lot of pain coming out of there. So do we have any updates here, or we don't?
Nope, I don't. And him or Mahomes, like there's some key injury stuff going into this week.
Oh, yeah. And then Mahomes. So Smith and Mahomes are both in that look pretty bad. We don't have an answer yet. As we're recording this, we don't have an answer yet, but it could be.
Brain's not good for Mahomes.
No, both of them. That's the sort of thing that for sure they're going to be dealing with swelling and pain. It's not going to be healed. This is going to be messed up for the rest of the year, I think, for both of them, even if they start playing again. And in that exact same pattern, TJ Watt, again, a little bit questionable, but we're talking about big time players that are going to support that these teams need. And they're all either completely out or compromised in a questionable, in the questionable category now, going into the final stretch of the season, but then into the playoffs. And there is no way to really make this stuff heal. I guess if you sit them, but
Yeah, no, it's not with the high ankle sprain. They have that tightrope surgery, but it depends on how bad it is. But you're going to miss a bit more time with that. But like at this point, missing a couple weeks now isn't bad because then they're still going to make the playoffs, and you'd want them back healthy for that kind of a run. So I'd be
But for
interested
the
to
Chiefs, you
see.
don't want to lose home field advantage.
No, I guess not. But I mean, but Mahomes is so important, and it's so important to have him
Yeah,
be able to
no.
like some mobility. Like
I mean, they could afford to sit him and just if the only team that could catch him is the Bills.
Yeah.
And it's not like there's a weather advantage. Both places are going to be freezing cold. It's just obviously home field's always better than going on the road.
Right.
But you're right. So yeah, I guess he could sit. I mean, the Steelers, they're in, and I just think they're a one and done. They're going to be out the first round with or without Watt. And then Smith, I think that division's still up in the air, as messy as that division is. So he can't afford to sit. They're still fighting for a spot.
Yeah, which division? You're talking about the
Geno Smith, the NFC West with the Seahawks, the Cardinals.
Yeah,
that division that no one wants to win.
That whole thing is wide open.
Yeah, so they can't afford to.
Rams are 8-6, Seattle's 8-6, Arizona's 7-7, San Fran's 6-8. So
so they can't afford to have Smith out for any amount of time if they think they're going to try to win that. So just bad. Like we don't want to see.
Yeah, I know.
We don't want to see the best teams going, or teams that can go for a run in the playoffs, missing key players, and that becomes the thing where we're looking back saying, "Oh, if only they had those players, that would suck." So, anyways. What's your worst thing?
Number one worst thing I saw was the Rams San Francisco game way back on Thursday night. It was a 12-6 game. It was terrible, and it was really capped off by that linebacker refusing to play. Yep. So that was ridiculous. Like, it's really, I don't understand the thought process. It's really hard to make the NFL. You're really fortunate when you make the NFL. Even if people are on the practice squad and you get a chance to be called up, that's like a really big deal. So don't understand the refusing to play part. They're going to have no trouble finding someone to replace them. There's so many linebackers in the NFL like that, you can find others like no problem. And I just, just really disappointing, like to see something like that. And especially after the week before, like when San Fran had a big win the week before and it was like, okay, they're back, we're clicking now. And it's, man, did it not look like that. Like that game was terrible. So
I have an extra category here called Idiots of the Week, and he's the number one idiot of the week. I can't see this guy getting another job.
No, it's suspended for 3 games. I'm surprised that was it. Like
I read a couple articles. Apparently, John Lynch purposely tried to suspend him for as long as possible to avoid paying him. I guess it gets them out of having to pay him.
Oh, okay.
Versus a short suspension. Right. So, or versus cutting him. So this is the maximum sort of punishment they can levy against him.
Gotcha.
And a couple of media pundits on a few other channels were saying that like the players finally saw Red 47, like that's John Lynch's ulterior ego. Right. And they're like, oh, there's John Lynch, the manager, then there's Red 47, and you don't want to deal with Red 47. And so I guess he just blasted this guy, and he purposely is trying to not let him go to another team if another team's dumb enough to sign this guy. As a reward for being cut. This guy should never play again in the NFL. No. First of all, what an entitled asshole.
Yeah.
You get paid millions of dollars to play a game most people would pay to play.
Yep.
Most guys growing up would.
It's really hard to make it. There's some like
it's
like
so rare. Like what you do is so rare. Who cares if you're sitting on the bench? You're getting paid millions of dollars to sit there. In a football uniform.
Well, and you had a chance. Like he replaced someone who was injured, and that was your chance. That's your.
And Greenlaw's better than you.
And accept that. But that's like your job interview, right? Like that's if you play well during that time, then another team is going to pick you up. If someone suffers an injury, or if they think you can make a difference.
Like, I think he has mental problems. He's not understanding that his actions right there just made him a pariah in the entire league. Like what team would want that guy?
Yeah, I don't.
After doing that.
And it's also, I think, like it's really hard for players too. Like after they get out of football, there's a lot of mental health struggles, and what am I going to do now? And because not everyone like finished their degree or like what and some of it is going to be like football camps or something like that. But like that's going to follow you around. Like you're the
what
guy
kid wants to be like, oh, Devondre Campbell's at our camp. Oh, the guy who quit. Yeah, that
guy.
Yeah,
like that. Like that's going to really undermine a lot of stuff later. So
This Shannon Sharp said it. They don't remember the good; they remember the bad.
Yeah.
So, like, I guess he maybe had a Pro Bowl season. No one's talking about that. They're talking about this, and this will follow him around for. What a loser! What are you doing?
Just crazy.
I can only think he's got. How does he not realize the entire country thinks so lowly of him now? Like, there's no I don't think there's recovery from this. Other players They cannot have respect for him. I think the players are being.
Well, Kittle went off like,
and Kittle's like a very polite, like he's the last guy that, and then Ward and some of the other guys were like, no, what the hell is he doing? I expect him to be cut. Like they just straight up and this prick. Think of the shit his teammates have dealt with. Two Trent Williams' wife just had a stillborn. Ward's 1-year-old just died. Oh. Pearsall got shot in the chest.
Yeah.
And this prick just doesn't feel like
McCaffrey's had like his leg goes out again.
McCaffrey
like
just keeps getting hurt. And this guy just doesn't feel like playing. Yeah. Like, what an asshole.
Yeah.
Anyways, Devondre Campbell, you're a fucking loser. All right, next idiots of the week. Jonathan Taylor dropping the ball this keeps happening. This is just arrogance and showboating. I can't figure out. It's nothing other than showboating.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, he's like, that can't happen. Yeah, you did that. You just need to show off. It's this. I think one person, I saw somebody call it the ego drop. Like you drop it as close to the goal line as possible for some, I don't know, like it's beneath you to carry it that extra yard. Like you're doing manual labor at that point. I don't know. It's this obviously it's not an accident. It's not him not realizing this is the Deshaun Jackson thing. Run to the goal line, stop at the goal line, taunt people, and wait to cross the goal line. Jackson was the worst at dropping the ball. He would drop it at like the 2-yard line. So there's obviously some psychology of showing off as to how close to the goal line can you drop the ball.
Yeah.
And it's beneath them to carry it all the way into the end zone. So Jonathan Taylor, you're also a loser.
No, and you've talked about this before. Like it's just
in a close game. Your team's trying to make the playoffs. I would cut this asshole.
Yeah,
like what an idiot. And then Jordan Battle, 63-yard kick return. I don't think he was doing it on purpose, but he chooses to switch hands with the ball right at the goal line. What are you doing? And then he just fumbles it right through the back of the end zone.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that seems more like incompetence to me than Jonathan Taylor's arrogance or Devondre Campbell's selfishness.
The battle thing is just a big mistake, I think.
Huge mistake, but he's still an idiot for not being able to just carry the ball across the goal. Now, they won that game too, but my God, we're talking about, well, actually, all three of these teams, I guess, technically still have a shot at the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like not really the 49ers, it's a way outside shot. But what the hell are these three guys doing? Like, I'll get rid of all these guys. Anyways. All right, I got one odd prediction.
Okay.
And then Flowers and Flowers, no Cole. I think we've had so many bad things here. So, okay, now this one reaches back into Carson Beck, and I think he tore his UCL, right? His elbow when he got hit there.
Yep.
And that's the same injury Brock Purdy had when Hassan Reddick hit him on the arm as he was throwing.
Correct.
So in this era of protecting QBs, and you can't rough the passer anymore. Like there's just so many things you can't do to a QB.
Right.
I won't be surprised if they ban tackling the QB's arm while he's throwing. Because we've banned the horse collar because you can break a guy's fibula when you pull him down from the horse collar. It ends up actually breaking a bone in your lower leg. We're trying to ban any hits to the head for concussions.
Below the knee. That's
tackling below the knee after they blew out. After Brady's knee got blown out.
Hits to the
face for concussions. So we're trying to protect the knees. We're trying to protect the ACL from blowing out legs. It famously happened to Brady. Then Carson Palmer, he was on his way. And then remember when he was at Cincinnati and he was never quite the same again. So we're getting rid of that. We're getting rid of the horse collar which can damage your leg. Then we're getting rid of any hits to the head for concussions. But the one super obvious one to me is just if you swipe at the guy's arm mid-throw, you can tear his elbow in half pretty consistently.
Yep.
And the Brock Purdy was the first time where it was like, oh, it was very ugly. And then Carson Beck in the SEC championship game, and it tore his elbow right up.
Yep.
And then I thought, man, it's only going to take 1 or 2 star quarterbacks for this to happen, where it tears their elbow up, that this will be, you have to tackle the quarterback like center mass.
Yeah, like can't hit the throwing arm or something like that.
My guess, Mike, I'm just guessing, if it keeps happening, especially to let's say it happens to Mahomes or another high profile QB and it just rips his elbow up and it's another UCL. Kind of like the hip drop tackle, which happened all week this week, and no, they never called any of them.
Have you seen it called ever?
All they do is find them. They don't know what to do with it. But it keeps happening. It happened to
who was the last person that got fined?
Well, you find out later. It's not even you have to go looking for it. And it's sort of like you have to.
So do you think people have been fined each week, or is it like the last fine was like 3 weeks ago?
It's pretty common, but you have to look for it. It never hits a headline. You have to look up who has been fined for hip drop tackles. Right. But AJ Brown, somebody did that to him, the Steelers guy, and it just keeps happening. And I mean textbook classic hip drop tackle, and they never call it, which is, what are they doing? It's kind of obvious when it happens, especially when you sit right down on the ankle and all that stuff. I mean, the physician guy did a little profile of what, like when it happened to AJ Brown and exactly the mechanism of the ankle sprain. So he was analyzing a hip drop tackle, but there was no flag, and there was no mention of a fine, nothing. Yeah. So it's happening all the time. And they just, to me, it's pretty clear that when someone does it, they swing around, unweight, sit down on the leg, all that stuff, and it never gets called. So, but along those lines, I think my guess is within the next couple of years, when another big quarterback goes down, this will be banned. Like, you won't be able to attack the arm in the throwing motion. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just guessing, given that that's the asset they're trying to protect, the QB, yet they are doing nothing to protect the most important part of his body, which is his arm.
So you heard it here first, folks. That's the Barbin calling that swiping at the QB throwing arm is going to be banned because of that UCL injury. I think you're right. I think you're right.
Like when his hands are maybe the simple and so the question could be, well, how do you do? Okay, so when his hand's above his shoulder.
Yeah, like in the throwing motion, they already do that for like where they try to figure out if it's fumbling or if it's an incomplete pass. But in the throwing motion, you can't hit the arm or something.
So when his arms are still down, when he's still got the ball down here. Blast him however you want, because the elbow's not really vulnerable. Right. But when the hand's above his shoulder
in throwing motion,
you can't attack the arm. You got to go through center mass. Now it'll ruin one or two what could have been like swipes at it and caused a fumble, but I don't think it'll fundamentally change anything. No. Like if you're close enough to get him here or on the arm, you're probably going to affect the throw anyways. But I think it'll get to the point where you can only hit him right here. That's about like of all the things to not protect the throwing arm, you're not going to, I don't know. So I'm just guessing in the next couple of years that's coming.
It's a good prediction.
But it'll be triggered when a big time QB goes down. Like one, we can't like Mahomes or Josh Allen, like someone the league depends on for marketing, and he's gone because of that. So anyways, that's my prediction.
Yep.
So I got a lot of flowers. You got flowers?
Yep. Go ahead.
All right. The Atlanta special teams, 2 blocked punts and a blocked extra point.
That's a good
point. They need it because they can't score.
It's 59. Yeah, they needed all that. Yeah.
Jesus.
But John Robinson looks good. Like he's a good right. So I'll give flowers to him. He was,
Lamar Jackson. I mean, you kind of have to, even though it was against the Giants, 21 of 25, 295 TDs. I mean, he's just.
We said a couple of these before already. Like Mike Evans, really good, 159 yards receiving. He looks great. Baker Mayfield, 288 yards passing. That was good.
Had to get both of them in there. Yep. Cooper Rush and Rico Dowdle.
Yep.
I mean, Rush 3 TDs, Dowdle 150 yards rushing. Like we haven't seen that.
Already talked about. Sorry, keep going.
No. That's just great for Dallas. I mean, where's that coming from?
Rush hasn't played poorly. Like he's been. I
don't think they look fundamentally that much different with Rush than they just don't.
Yes, no, I totally agree. No, and we've talked about Goff before, 494 yards, and Amon-Ra St. Brown 193. So yeah, those are great games too.
Derek Stingley, 2 picks.
Ooh, he's good.
While he was covering Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, he's been great. I've loved him since he was freshman at LSU, and he's just been an amazing cover corner like the whole time.
Talk about I like the way that team's built. Yeah. Like Stingley's legit. Staying on the defensive side, Nick Bonito's pick 6. How good was that? Yep. Now, I don't know if that was super telegraphed, but Bonito's a freak. Like he's a total freak, but that was awesome. Throw flowers at James Conner.
Yep.
1,610, 2 TDs. Like that matters. When he's on, that team's good.
Yeah. No, at Arizona, like it's when they can run the ball is like sneaky effective now all of a sudden, right? But they just disappear sometimes. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's maybe they can just run against weak teams, but man, when he's going, it just looks like how it's supposed to look there. Yeah. Last is Devontae Adams.
Yep.
9 for 198, 2 TDs. I think this is what the Jets fans were hoping they were going to get.
Yeah. No, really good at week 15.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you can't expect somebody to go for 200 yards every game. And it was clear Rodgers was just going at him the whole game.
Yeah.
And it's Jacksonville.
Yeah,
So
there's Jacksonville doesn't have someone that could cover him. So
no,
that's
but
all that was.
man, I think the Jets fans are like, oh, that's it right there.
Yeah, that window.
That's what we were hoping for.
Hmm.
Anyway, so that's all the Flyers. I got anything else?
No, that was it. We covered a lot of stuff there.
All right. Well, that's our review of Week 15 and some of our ugly bets, and the couple that worked out. So join us again for we're going to pick in our next show. We're going to pick NFL Week 16.
Yep.
And then we also are going to do our first
college
week
football playoffs.
Yeah. Then we have another show coming out, college football playoff preview and some of the early games along with the first round of the playoffs.
And feel free to like and subscribe to the video if you guys are enjoying the content.
Would be wonderful. If you like whatever we got going on here, it would be wonderful.
That would be on the best ever list.
That would be number one best ever if you could like and subscribe and maybe share it around to someone you think might appreciate it. All right. We'll catch you guys later.